welcome Blessing Adesiyan as she comes up. Blessing is a trailblazer in the care economy. She's a mother of 4 children, and so she understands this thing, knowing that care is not a woman's business, it's an economic issue. And she has put in her life, her energy, her blood, and her sweat. She's dedicated her career to closing the care gap for families, workplaces, and economies around the world. With a background spanning Fortune 100 companies in the US, she's also led advocacy for paid family leave, not just maternity leave, but paid family leave and care infrastructure. I can't wait for Blessing to tell you so much about. Are you ready for this? We're honored to have you, and I'll hand over to Blessing now to bring in your panelists and go into the conversation. Please welcome Blessing. Care.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Blessing Oyeleye Adesiyan, and I'm the founder and CEO of CaringAfrica. It's nice and wonderful to see you all this morning. I'm super excited. Women do mean business, and I think that it's something that I've always championed because I truly believe that, women are multifaceted. We can thrive and accomplish so much in the workplace and also in our homes and with our children. And I'm here this morning. How many of you, just before we bring on our speakers, how many of you have had to miss work because you did not have childcare? Okay, I'm seeing a few women. I don't see men, no. I don't see men. All right, how many of you, when you are at work, you are pressing phone, looking for nanny? Or somebody to take care of your aging parents? You better raise your hand because you were telling me about your mom. Or somebody take care of mommy or daddy, or to help mommy go and pick up something, or to help mommy with their medication. How many of you? Okay, perfect. All right, so without further ado, I will introduce our speakers. So I just want to level set a bit, because oftentimes society overlooks the importance of investing in care. And this affects all of us, whether you have children, or you have aging parents, or you have someone that you're caring for. It could be a partner, a spouse that is going through an illness. Society overlooks this because, we just always assume that somebody else will do it. And today we have 3 amazing leaders with us. One leading care for employees in the workplace, another looking at this on a global perspective, and the third leader is a child care provider. And so today we're going to be talking about care, because whether you like it or not, we all need care, right? Or we have all received care at some point in our lives. When you were born, somebody was taking care of you, you are caring for someone, and you still will or may need care when you get older. So this is why care is such an important conversation. So let me introduce our very first speaker, Adaorie Udechukwu. She's the Senior Gender and Economic Inclusion Advisor at IFC, the World Bank. And Adaorie please give her a round of applause, because she had to pull everything to get here today. And she has been a champion of care here in Nigeria with the Care to Equal program that the World Bank is leading. They've done a lot of work in quantifying as well as reporting on care infrastructure here in Nigeria. Our next speaker is Kingsley Ogirri, Mr. Kingsley Ogirri, and he is the Chief Human Resource Officer at Providus Bank. Please give Kingsley a round of applause, because he did not sleep in Lagos, and he literally just, drove all the way to Lagos to be with us here today. Providus Bank has been a wonderful partner of ours for a very long time, because they understand the importance of care for their employees. So if you know a Providus employee, just know that they are enjoying, because they don't joke with their employees. All right, and last but not the least is my wonderful friend, a fellow care innovator, Mrs. Itoro Ugorji. She's the founder and CEO. She's the founder and CEO of the Baby Lounge. If you don't know where the Baby Lounge is, you need to Google them. She understands childcare back to back. If you wake her up at 6 a.m. and say, Miss Itoro, oh yeah, tell me about childcare in Nigeria, she has the answer. All right, I don't want to waste too much of our time because our speakers have so much to talk about. But before they dive in, I just want to share my own story in case they've never heard that before. So when I was 23, 23, I had my baby, my first child. So my Tayo is 16 years old. So do the math. I'll be 39 this year. And I walked into the workplace with a baby. And, you know, a lot of people, when they go into the workplace as a 22-year-old, you know, you're thinking about your pencil skirt, you're thinking about, you know, your perfect journal, you are calling your friends, you guys are talking about your first day of work. And here I was like, oh my God, what am I gonna do with childcare? Who is gonna take care of my child? So I'm researching baby formulas, I'm researching the next childcare location, and that was when it occurred to me that this really needed to be, you know, a societal issue and a workplace issue, because I can't be the only one figuring this out for myself. I thought about the millions of working families, working moms that were out there that were doing exactly the same thing, just typing, researching. I mean, now we even have, you know, I think we can search for a lot of things, but back then, this was 16 years ago, it was really tough to find real-time, up-to-date information. So I relied on the phone calls, and it was a lot at the time. So I want to start off with you, Adaorie, because I know that you have done a lot of work in trying to understand the impact of childcare, of reliable, accessible, and affordable childcare for women especially. Because if women are going to mean business, they need childcare. Or am I wrong? Especially here in Nigeria. So please share with us, you know, what have you found to be the most important, you know, need in our society around childcare for women? Or what are the issues or the barriers that you've seen?
Thank you very much, Blessing, and thanks for opening with that story. I think I will start with the most recent here, where you asked how many of you missed work yesterday or something because you didn't have access to care. So I looked behind to see the show of hands, and right behind me was someone who could not be at work yesterday because they had to provide childcare. And, you know, it just struck me again. And today I would like to challenge all of us about how we think about care. It struck me again about the impact of societal norms and expectations on women. So what our study found 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago, we conducted an assessment of the care economy in Nigeria. We looked at the demand side and the supply side of care. We looked at the infrastructure that's available. We looked at the legal and regulatory frameworks. And what we found was that women are disproportionately impacted by the burden of care. While globally and in Nigeria as well, they dedicate 3 times more of their time than men to provide care. Men rise 3 times faster than women in the workplace and in their business. So it's sort of, you know, not balanced is the word that I would use. And so you begin to ask the question, why is this so? If we're advocating for women to enter the workforce, if we're advocating for more women to participate in the female labor force, if we're advocating for more women to be entrepreneurs and to thrive, we then need to begin to think about their time commitments, right? A lot of studies have shown that women are time poor. But you begin to ask yourself, why are they time poor? It's because their time is tied up in providing care, either for children or for the elderly or for a sick person. Because this is just expected. A man takes a baby to the hospital and they're like, where is the mother? because the mother has gone to work. But a woman takes a baby to the hospital. Nobody is asking, are you working? Do you do business? Who is taking care of your business? Who is filling in for you at work, right? So first of all, I'd like to challenge the way we think about it. One, there's the societal norms and expectations that impact the care economy overall. So I'd like you to think about it as an overarching issue from there. And then you also look at the market failures. At the firm level, for instance, employers expect women to work at the same pace and be as productive as men, but have not provided the infrastructure to support them because they have, like Blessing said, multifaceted responsibilities. They're working at home, they're working at work. So they are doing two jobs. So what kind of provisions are employers providing? We found some best practices where employers were providing adequate maternity leave, adequate paternity leave, but only 5% of employers in Nigeria actually provide employer-supported childcare to their employees. And that's a huge, huge gap because the other 95% do not. And you can begin to think about the impact on women. A lot of us here are entrepreneurs. It is from the quick assessment that I did. As entrepreneurs, you then begin to think about yourself as an employer of labor. What are you putting in place to ensure that the women in your workforce are well supported? So we're talking about policies, we're talking about the practices, your family-friendly policies, etc. So that's one level of failure. And then you look at the market level failure, where the government, the policies, do not support or make childcare provision mandatory. In some other markets, we found that at the government level, there's a mandatory childcare provision that is required by employers who employ at least 100 employees. And I think in Nigeria it should be lower, right? Because we don't have we don't even have the non-employer supported childcare, that's adequate. So you look at that market level failure, and then you also look at the supply side failure, where when you think about childcare, affordability and quality almost cannot go in the same sentence. So if you're looking for quality, it's probably unaffordable. If you're looking for affordable, it's probably low quality. But why can you not have both in a childcare provider? Right? So we also look on the supply side. What are the challenges that care entrepreneurs are facing? I'll leave that to Itoro to speak to. But there are also those challenges. The care entrepreneurs are there. We have Itoros out there, but they also have constraints to growing and expanding their business so that they can support more families. So I'll stop there at this point, and we'll come back to.
I'm just shaking my head, and please give Adaorie a round of applause for that, because. When I first came to Nigeria, I told myself, I said, what, I don't think I can find anybody that, I need to start educating people around care. And then I met Adaorie, and I met Mrs. Itoro. I said, I already have my people, and we've stuck together since then. And what I love about, everything that you've just said is that this is not sentimental. Right, a lot of time when we're talking about childcare, when we're talking about paid family leave, when we are talking about breastfeeding in the workplace, a lot of people think, it's because let's just support these women. This is not sentimental. We actually have data. We have, evidence-based research that shows that childcare is good for everybody. It's good for the families. It's good for business. It's good for our economic growth. It's actually one of the most important ways we can catalyze our economy. Because think about it, if 50% of our population is not able to achieve their full potential, they're not able to scale their businesses, they're not able to contribute to their full capacity in the workplace, then that means that our productivity continues to come down. And that's why I'm going to go straight to Kingsley, because that is something that Providus does well, in terms of understanding that childcare is a business imperative. Let's remove the sentiment. Let's drop that. Because we know that when we go to workplace leaders, and Kingsley and I, we've had this conversation before. Kingsley will tell me, Blessing, I need numbers, I need data, because my shareholders don't listen to sentiments. So we now started looking at, okay, how can we convince shareholders, investors, and business leaders that childcare is worth investing in? And that is something that, Providus has done really well, thinking about care, not just childcare. They are looking at aging care. They're looking at paid leave. They're looking at, okay, what happens when mom has a baby and come back to work? So I'm not going to steal your thunder. I just want you to describe to us, why Providus Bank has made a business decision to invest in care.
All right, thank you, Blessing, and good afternoon, everyone. First off, before I answer the question, you will note that I am in the severe minority. So I would like to say Happy International Women's Day to everyone. And just by looking at this room, it means that women actually mean business, right? So let's talk about Providus Bank as an employer that has decided to focus on employee care as a differentiator and as a value proposition. I don't think it's news anymore that women rule the world. And if you look at the statistics, and I'll go to my demographics, for the bank, 60% of our workforce is it's women and it's females. And so that makes us begin to think, okay, of that 60%, about 80% of them are married, getting ready to start a family. And as such, we began to wonder, how can we deliberately and intentionally focus on care as a value proposition to our talents? It made us come up with a couple of things, and I'll share some with you. The first one that's very important to us is what we call the newborn care kit from the bank that goes to every female employee that gives birth. Now, 80% of our employees are married. They're ready to give birth. One day I was just sitting in my office, and right in front of me, I had about 6 pregnant women walk past my office. And I said, wow, we need to take this thing very seriously. And then we said, okay, so when these women, go and leave, the bank gives them maternity leave. Yes, that's fine. But before they come back, what can we do to recognize the fact that they're bringing someone into the Providus Bank family? And as such, when we talk about employee care, it's hinged on 3 things: wellness, welfare, and well-being. Those 3 things are very, very important to us in the bank. And, when you look at wellness, for instance, a female employee just puts to bed, she's ready to come back to work, but we're saying, no, hold on, take your maternity leave, but you need support. So we have this care kit that was curated by CaringAfrica. It has everything that a newborn, everything a newborn wants is in that box. We call it the box of happiness. So whatever you're looking for is there. I know, because, yes, I know Adaorie said men typically rise faster. Men typically are not seen as carers. The notion is changing, though, because now I hear some men coming to meet me to say, my wife said I should stay at home with the kids. And I'm saying, please stay at home with the kids, But first of all, the truth of the matter is society places a responsibility on women to first and foremost take care of children, although that mindset is shifting. So we have this beautifully crafted newborn kit for people who just give birth. We give it to every female employee who puts to bed. It's a way of saying, welcome to the world, but it's also a way of saying, we care about you and your baby, right? That's what we're trying to tell you every time we give you that box. And let me just take it a bit further. One of the things that happened about 2 years ago was that we noticed that aside from maternity leave, every time a female employee wants to come back to work, she's always having to have this conversation with us about finding support for the newborn. Where will I keep my child when I go to work and everything? So we said, wait, hold on a minute. We can create something called a creche support allowance, which we give to every female employee. Actually, we give it to the male employees too. Just tell us that you've had a baby.
The one who took the box.
Just tell us that you've had a baby, and you are entitled to get a monthly allowance that allows the bank pay for creche for your newborn. These things are very important to the management of Providus Bank. In fact, we see it as a differentiator because everybody is focused on pay and salary. But what about the well-being and the wellness of the employee? What about care? How are we as a bank telling the employee that we care for them? Now, these are just some of the initiatives that we've put in place to show our employees that you're important to us, not just in terms of monetary benefits, but in terms of the word care. Your wellness, your well-being, and your welfare is critical to us as a bank. Thank you.
Wow. Please, let's give Mr. Ogirri, Kingsley, another round of applause because I don't know if you heard correctly, and he has not even shared everything. What you all do for, families with elderly parents, the on-ramp program. There's a whole lot that they do to support working families. And I say working families because it's not just about, babies, right? So many people are also caring for their aging parents. So many people are also caring for, a spouse, with disability or with a terminal illness. And these things, we need to think about them because whether we like it or not, the employee is at work, but they are not present if they are thinking about all of these things. And Providus has done a wonderful job positioning themselves as a strong employer that values and prioritizes employee care. So let me go to Mrs. Itoro. I know she's already waiting for me. And one of the reasons I'm really excited about hearing from you is because you have been in this space. You've been on the other side where you were an employee. You are now a care provider, providing childcare for families. And you have serviced hundreds of families, hundreds of employers. In fact, you have placed creches in various companies across Nigeria. And I just want to ask you, what do you hear from families, especially moms, about the challenges of childcare and the challenges of actually going to work, right? Being able to scale their businesses or even rise in corporate Nigeria. What challenges have you been hearing and seeing from your end?
They will not silence us. Thank you for having me again. So before I get to that, I want to say to Mr. Ogirri, very well done, and recommend that you step up the wellness, well-being, and welfare of women coming back from maternity leave with your Mugwa plan. You want to think about that. Fantastic. So the Mugwa plan is a postpartum care for new moms and their babies, 24 hours, so that these women can truly rest and recover from the rigors of pregnancy and childbirth. Think about it. Most of the time they're on maternity leave, they're not actually resting, which is why moms who are resuming back to work are palpitating. We have a number of them who resume, and the waiting room has them crying, breaking down. People often talk about separation anxiety, and the first thing that comes to your mind is the child. Mothers suffer from separation anxiety. It's so real. And so I find myself having to sit down with these moms and encourage and support them and assure them that their children will be fine. So we talk about, that's one of the challenges. So a mom is concerned about the safety of her children. Most of them have never been separated from those children. Remember, these are children of vulnerable ages. One of the biggest steps of faith that mothers take is entrusting their children to total strangers. That nanny, do you have background checks on that nanny? Can your nanny perform CPR? Please do not say God forbid, because God forbid is not a strategy. Can your nanny do first aid in the event of an emergency? And for those of us who have web nanny cam, right? Let me announce to you that nanny cam and CCTV, fantastic, but they are cold comfort, because you will be at a remote location and watch your child being molested, and you'll be totally helpless. So it's about getting child care support or support systems that you not only trust, but are reliable. So some of the other major challenges, right, would be peace of mind, comfort. How do I know that my child is well taken care of? Now, as an organization, we do not give remote access to parents. And the reason is very simple. We used to, but we find it very disruptive. A mother logs into the CCTV, right? And the ladies just cannot work because they are raising issues that may not necessarily be issues, right? And the service is one of trust. So we say to you, we are not giving you remote access, not because we have anything to hide. You can come into the creche at any time, right? But we can give you footages if you want. So what we do is at the end of each day, every single child gets a report. It's a snapshot of their day. Drop-off time, pick-up time, temperature checks at drop-off, feeding routines, what they ate, how much they ate, what time they ate, diaper changes for the infants, whether it was wet, whether it was a bowel movement, potty training for the toddlers, sleep routines, how long they slept for, then a highlight of their learning and play activities. And guess what? Because we do not want the moms to completely miss out or carry that mom guilt, we also send you pictures and videos. So you're sitting every single day. In fact, mothers have used that to even tell the time. 12 o'clock, the videos and the pictures drop in your phone, right? Now, we are privileged to see a lot of the milestones because the children stay with us for so long. We see this first step, we see the first scroll, we take short videos and send to the parents.
Absolutely.
The people who did not clap are yet to get on that motherhood journey. So I totally understand. One of the other challenges too is the timing, the structure. So you have schools and daycares that close at 2. The mom is in the office till 6. So how does that serve her? So the extended hours, we run the service 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Late pickup starts at 7 p.m. So we have kids in the creche sometimes at 8. Not every day. Please don't judge that mom. Our realities are different. It doesn't make her an irresponsible mom. It's just the circumstances with which she finds herself. And what the moms need are support systems. Reason why we also run the service all year round. No term breaks. So we are one of the creches that are open on the 24th of December, for example, if it is a work day, right? Because moms don't go on term breaks.
Wow. Mrs. Itoro, I can listen to her all day, especially because I'm a mother of 4 and my children, I have a 16-year-old, 753. So the 753, they camp with her at the baby lounge almost every weekend. But I want us to, because we're running short on time, but I want to bring this back to our care expert here. Based on everything we just talked about, whether it's childcare as a service or childcare in the workplace as a benefit, how else can we think about care, right? What can we do, especially here in Nigeria? What are the opportunities? Whether it's for government, policymakers, other workplace leaders, what is the opportunity that, we want them to see so that they can invest in care? What are your own suggestions around how do we invest in care? And lastly, I'm going to take this, to also ask you, how can we get men? I know today is women's, we're talking about women mean business, but we also need our men. So how do we redistribute? Perhaps the question is this redistribution of care, right? Because right now, care sits squarely on the lap of the woman. And I always say that we need to redistribute that care. We need to redistribute it to our men. We need to redistribute it to our government. We need to redistribute it to workplaces and institutions. And lastly, redistribute it to markets, right? So all the tech people, the providers, entrepreneurs, how are they thinking about solving this issue for us? So I'll just leave you to, help us understand more around this redistribution of care.
Thank you. So I was thinking about your question and reflecting on a few points. And there's so many ways to deal with the urgency of care. And I describe it as an urgency, which I'll come back to in a moment, but please stay on that word urgency. To emphasize what Kingsley has said, he talked about employees. Our study found that 76% of working parents reported that they are more productive when their employers supported them with care. So that's a business case. So it means that it trickles down to the bottom line of companies. I'm stating this so that as an employer in here, you begin to think about why this is important. And then you asked about redistributing care. Another thing we found from the study is low uptake of paternity leave. So paternity leave is not mandated by the labor law, unfortunately. However, state governments in their Public Service Act make provisions for paternity leave. But what we found is that even when paternity leave is available, in some institutions, it is reported that men do not take the paternity leave. And it was argued that for those who take the paternity leave, what do they use it for? Right? So they probably add to the burden of care on the woman in some cases. But we need to shift that change. We need to shift that mindset. We need to change it through awareness creation. We need to change it by engaging men and boys. And I'll quickly share a story if time permits me. And this is, I'm a mother of 3 boys. A few days ago, just before International Women's Day, I was shocked in a conversation that I had with my last baby, who is turning 7 in a few days. So we're talking about healthcare. And for some reason, he said, men are doctors, women are nurses. And then I said, oh, but why do you think so? Why don't you think women can be doctors? So we argued, went back and forth a bit about it, and he said, yes, okay, yeah, women can be doctors, but doctors are men. He was just convinced that care should come, or rather, doctors should be men, and care, the nurses, should be the women. So I'm sharing this about engaging men and boys, because the boys become the men, right? And so we cannot begin to say, oh, let's shift. Yes, we shift the mindset of the men, begin to help them understand that there's a platform called Promundo, you probably know them, engaging for positive masculinity, where you help men see the benefits of caring, of sharing in the care burden, right? But we also need to begin to engage from our homes. For us that have children, men or women, boys and girls, start to engage them and shift the mindset, help them to understand that care is actually a life skill that they need to gain. So I will say that about redistributing care. There's a lot of things. There's different strategies from entertainment to infotainment, etc., to get that information out. But speaking to the urgency, and I want to emphasize this, let me paint a picture for you, right? So Nigeria has what we call the youth bulge, because 70% of our population are below 30. Think about that. Right now, in 2025, 70% of our 218 million population are below 30. You heard when Kingsley said he was sitting and 6 pregnant women walked past him. That's in one organization, just him. Now, imagine 20 years from now, those under 30 would have had babies. They'll be in the workforce because there's a lot of intervention to get them into economic activities, get them employed or become employers of labor. And look at the flip side of it. If 70% are under 30, it means 30% are aging. So for us who relied on our parents and our parents' parents, by the time these youth start having their own children, their parents would have been aging out. Would they be able to provide the care? So we need urgent infrastructure that is non-parental care for children and for our aging parents. If you also look at the immigration, the demographic shift, you know, there's not an abandonment. There's a need for elder care as well, because children are migrating, the parents are left behind. Who's going to take care of them as they age? So we need that infrastructure, and it cannot happen only from the private sector. It has to be a public-private sector partnership that subsidizes the cost. And I'll pause there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I mean, we can talk about this all day, as you have seen, but I just want to leave you with the fact that Nigeria is going to be the third most populous country in the world in about 15 years. So sit with that. This is why this is an imperative. Care is something that we have to prioritize in our workplaces, in our institutions, in our government, in our homes, because quite frankly, who is going to take care of all these people that we are having, all these children? Who's going to take care of them? You and I don't have 500 hands, right? And it's going to be an issue economically for all of us. Thank you so much for indulging us. Thank you
for enlightening us and empowering us. Please, another applause for Blessing and the entire team. Please rise for a photograph. We'll welcome our festival creator, Anita, and of course our chairman to please come join them in this group photograph. Let's take one of them there whilst Anita and Mom come up. Of course, if you're thinking, please come. If you're thinking about starting a care business, you should find a way to meet up with these wonderful women and gentlemen to ask some questions and be guided, because it is now an extremely important field and people are willing, able, and ready to pay much more for such care. I was speaking with Blessing earlier in the day. My mom was diagnosed with cancer in November, and I know what we're spending on care alone, not medicals, just care. So, in fact, one of the days my sisters and I were like, this is big business, so maybe we should now go into the business of care as well, because she needs someone through the day, she needs someone right there at night as well. It's not just business, it's solving an economic problem for each and every one of us. And guess what? As women, we tend to be the primary caregivers, right? Over and again. And if we don't have care institutionalized, many of us will miss out on work because we are caring for family and the people who depend on us. So we thank you and we appreciate you for the enlightenment.